Hey guys, it's Sarah here. So thank you for joining me for another video. Today I am doing part two of my December daily flip through. If you missed part one where I was flipping through days 1 through 12, I'll go ahead and link that below. But today I'm going to start off on day 13. So day 13 I was talking about the Starbucks holiday cups, and if you're not familiar, Starbucks came out with a bunch of different designs on their red cups, which were illustrations that were actually submitted by customers. So I really loved all of the illustrations that were on the cups. I'm a total sucker for packaging, and I just love that. Every time I got a new design, I snapped a photo right away and kind of saved those up, and I knew that I was going to eventually put together a page in my album for this. So I used some of those photos just to slip them in those 2-inch pockets, and then I used this craft tag that came in Allie's main kit this year to adhere my numbers to for the number 13 on the front, and then I used the back side for some journaling. And then I had this photo that I had shared on my Instagram that included one of the red cups and then just some December daily stuff that I had on my desk that day. And I adhered that photo onto one of these Starbucks coffee cup cozies. I really love the sentiment that they had on their packaging, the crafted by hand and heart. So I wanted to include that somewhere in my binder. And then I also had one of these pastry bags that I had collected, and that was really perfect for me to be able to tuck some cards into for day 14. So I hole punched that and then I stuck it directly into my binder, and that worked out perfectly there just to have some space to kind of tuck things in. So day 14 was my husband's anniversary, our 3-year anniversary, and I just did a little bit of journaling on the back of that bag just about kind of our day, and then I tucked in the cards that we had given each other and a little poem that my grandfather wrote and sent in the mail, and also this little postcard which is from a show that we saw that night. We went on a little date night and we saw Cavalia, and so I just tucked all of those into this bag just for safekeeping, and that was kind of perfect. Day 15, I talked about our holiday wrapping paper. This was again another story that I knew that I was going to want to include. This is something I did last year, and it was probably one of my favorite pages just because I am a total geek when it comes to all things paper and bows and wrapping and just all of that. I love all things paper. So I wanted to definitely include a photo of that, and I love seeing that every year and kind of how it changes. And I just adhered my number directly onto one of the photos there, added a little bit of journaling, and called this page done. Just kept it very simple. You'll see a lot of my pages from here on out are a lot more simple just because things were getting a lot more busy towards the end of December, obviously with all the holidays coming up. So I have more kind of one-page spreads to tell my stories. So day 16, I was talking about holiday shopping and the stores and kind of some of the decorations and trying to get out those packages. And then day 17, I have just some of this covered up just for privacy reasons, but this was the day that I went with my husband to his work holiday party. So I took that photo of us before we left. That was in front of our Christmas tree, and I just really love how the light was kind of shining through. It looked very kind of festive, and we were all dressed up, so I wanted to make sure I snapped that photo. And then I have the number 17 that I adhered just directly onto that bottom photo. Day 18, I was talking about a little baking party that I had, and it was really fun. We just baked some of our favorite Christmas cookies, so I have that photo there of the decorated cookies, and I did a little bit of journaling there at the top. I had that card from A Beautiful Mess that was in their kit from last year, and I really loved that it had those little sugar cookies as a design up in that corner there. That just kind of worked perfectly for the day, and using that as my journaling card. Day 19 was the last day that I worked in 2016, so I wanted to include that story in my binder there. I didn't have a lot to include on this day. I had one photo and then just a little bit of journaling. So I knew that I wanted to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, so I decided to write diagonally on that bottom card. I basically just took a ruler and angled it and then drew in my lines, and then that made it really easy for me to write on that card. And then I adhered my number 19 directly onto my photo there, and just very, very simple, keeping it simple for day 19. And day 20 was also pretty simple. I talked about the weather, and I live in Southern California, so our winter is probably more like fall for other areas, and so we had just fall-like leaves on the ground, and I was finally able to wear my boots and my scarves, and it was really nice. So I did talk a little bit about that, and then I used that little cheers piece that came from A Beautiful Mess. I just adhered that directly into my binder. Day 1, we had a little holiday party with family, and we opened some gifts. Again, this is another Christmas party that I forgot to take any photos at. So luckily my brother-in-law had taken one photo, so I was able to include that. And then I also had a photo that I took of Nugget the morning after of him with one of the toys that my family had bought for him. And then I just have some simple journaling and my number there on the left side. Because I didn't have enough photos to include another page, I went ahead and I adhered this 6x8 pattern paper from Decorate onto the other side, and that just worked out perfectly. That's not really a design that I would want to cover up with photos or embellishments anyways, so this was a good area for me to kind of include that to act as more of just an embellishment than anything else. So that kind of worked out perfectly there, and I just adhered that onto the back of that pocket protector that has the 2 slots for the 4x6 photos. For day 22, we saw a play for It's a Wonderful Life. So I just included a couple of photos here, one that was in the pocket protector, and then one that I adhered onto the back of, or actually the front of, an envelope. This is just a regular letter envelope, and I tucked my journaling into the back of the envelope, and I actually cut off that little flap that comes down, and that just kind of made it easier for me to take my journaling in and out. And then I have that card there, that green little card. I had planned to use that somewhere else in my binder, but it didn't work out, so this was kind of a perfect place for me to be able to include it there. And then I just hole punched the program that came out for that play, and I just wanted to include that there, so I just basically inserted it just very simply there. So day 23, I didn't really have a story, so what I did is I kind of had 2 stories from Christmas Eve. So I had the story of spending time with my family and opening Christmas gifts with them, and then I also had the story of going to church. So I took the first part, the first story of being with my family, and I used that for day 23. So in this little bag, I tucked away some tags that my mom and sister created. They actually hand make all of their tags and cards for Christmas, so it's definitely something that I like to keep. It's very sentimental, so I just tucked those into a bag and adhered my number 23 on there, and then I did my journaling on the back of that little craft tag. These little craft tags that came in Allie's main kit were so handy. I really didn't think I was going to use these that much, but they were just perfect. They have a really fun design on the front, and then on the back it was pretty much blank. It had a little sentiment at the top where the hole is, but it pretty much left it open for journaling. So those just came in really handy. I was so happy to have those from the main kit. And then I have a few photos from the day, and then this is a a card from Life Love Paper that she offered on her website last year for free. You might still be able to find it actually, but I had printed it out last year and didn't use it, and so I used it this year. This page was a little bit of a filler. I wanted to use these 4x6 photos for day 24. So this 3x4 pocket page was just gonna kind of be left alone. So what I decided to do here is use some of my filler cards. I had these really cute designs from A Beautiful Mess, and I adhered those little square designs onto 3x4 cards and then tucked those in the pockets. And then I talked about just 5 of the songs that have kind of been on repeat for me in December, just basically 5 of my favorite Christmas songs, and that was kind of the perfect place to include my holiday playlist. So just a fun page to kind of work on and incorporate into the binder. And then again, I have another transparency here where I adhered a couple more of those gold messy circles, and so I adhered those to the front and the back. And then day 24 here, I'm talking about the Christmas Eve service at our church, and I really love that photo that I took of the candlelight ceremony. It was very dark, so I was able to use a sentiment from a Kelly Perky stamp set that says "Merry Everything," and I just stamped that using some white Brilliance ink, so it really kind of stood out there. And then I used the back of that number 24 tag to do just a little bit of journaling. And then we come to Christmas Day, which was just a very laid-back day. I spent the morning with my husband opening Christmas gifts, and then he ended up having to go to work, so I spent the rest of the afternoon with my family and some extended family, and it kind of ended up being a bit of a family reunion, which was nice. And those little pieces there are covering up faces just for privacy reasons, but it was just a really nice photo of my family. And just a little bit of journaling underneath Christmas there, and then that number 25 is from Life Love Paper. Again, that came in the freebie set that she offered on her website that might still be available. And that was the last day that I included. We did end up going to Vegas after Christmas, right before New Year's. I thought about including those days, but since I had kind of already taken some photos the year before when we had gone to Vegas during the holidays, I felt like it was kind of a story that I had already told. So I decided to just include those photos in my Project Life album and not include them in my December daily. And I think that worked out because I actually kind of ran out of space. I think if I had included a few more days, I might not have been able to close this binder. So that worked out, and I was able to kind of tuck all of our Christmas cards into the back here. Last year I had an envelope that I was able to use, but I didn't have one this year. So I just used a regular 6x8 page protector, and then I just tucked all of our cards right in there. And then on the other side, I used a 6x8 paper that came in Allie's main kit last year. It has some really beautiful gold foiling, some stars, and then it has her handwriting there that says December. And then I just added a couple of embellishments at the bottom just to kind of tie in some fun colors that went with the Christmas cards on the right side. So that completes my December daily album. I hope you have enjoyed this flip through of these 25 days, and I hope that if you are still working on this project, keep going. I think it's so wonderful when it's a completed album. I know that it's definitely time consuming, but I just feel like it's so worth it to have this at the end of the year. I found it to be one of my favorite projects and one that I love looking back on. So stay strong if you're still completing your album. I know you can do it. And thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this again, and I will talk to you soon in my next video. Have a wonderful day.